Hey guys, Mr. Backward here. In this video, we're going to look at trigonometric functions of any angle. Now, as we're looking at these angles being plotted out on our coordinate grid, knowing things about the different quadrants can be helpful when we're trying to determine if our trig functions are going to be positive or negative. Now, remember your quadrants. Quadrant 1 is the top right corner, and then we work our way counterclockwise around from there. So quadrant 2 is the top left corner. Quadrant 3 is down in the bottom left-hand corner, and then the bottom right-hand corner is quadrant 4. Now, if we think about ordered pairs that would happen in quadrant 1, the x values are positive and the y values are positive. So as we're building these fractions and making these trig ratios, that's actually going to tell us things about the signs of our trig functions. Now, as we're talking about these ordered pairs, we should mention that that r value is always a positive value. So if I were to make a sine fraction in my first quadrant, sine is y over r. So I would be taking a positive number divided by a positive number. So my sine is always going to be positive in the first quadrant. And since the sine is positive, its reciprocal, the cosecant, would also be positive. The cosine, we're going to take the x value, which is a positive number, over the r value, which is a positive number. So we get a positive cosine value there, meaning that the secant will also be a positive value. And then for the tangent, we take our y value over the x value. So again, we're dividing two positive values in there. So we get a positive tangent value. The cotangent, the reciprocal of that tangent, will also be positive. Now, as we move into the second quadrant, here our x values are negative, but our y values are still positive. So that's going to affect the signs on anything that has the x value in it. The sine is still the y value over the r value. So we're taking a positive number divided by a positive number. So that one is still going to be positive, and its reciprocal, the cosecant, will be positive. The cosine is the x value over the r value. So if I take a negative value divided by a positive value, that's going to give me a negative answer, meaning that the secant will also result in a negative answer. For the tangent, we take the y value over the x value. So we're taking a positive number divided by a negative number. So we're going to get a negative answer. And same thing for the cotangent. If we do the reciprocal, we would also get a negative answer. Moving down into the third quadrant, both the x and the y are going to be negative. So if I think about making a sine fraction, I would take my negative y value over my positive r value. So I'd get a negative answer there. So the cosecant will also be negative. For the cosine, we're going to take a negative x value divided by a positive r value. So that'll be negative. The secant will also be negative. Now, tangent is y over x. So if I take a negative number divided by a negative number, that's going to be positive. The cotangent will also be positive there. And then lastly, if I move into my fourth quadrant, the x's are positive, but the y's are negative. So my sine, I'm taking a negative number divided by a positive number, so I get a negative answer. And the cosecant will also be negative. The cosine, if I take a positive number divided by a positive number, I'm going to get a positive answer. And then the secant will also be positive. And then my tangent, I'm going to take a negative number divided by a positive number. So the tangent's going to be negative, and the cotangent will also be negative. So in this example, we're going to take some given information and use what we know about those quadrants to help us find the missing trig ratios. So we know that the sine of theta is 3/7, and we're told that our tangent value is less than 0, meaning that it's negative. So the first thing we're going to do is try to figure out what quadrant our angle is in. Now we're given a positive sine value, and the sine is positive on the top of our coordinate grid since the y values are positive up there. We're told that the tangent is negative, and the tangent is negative in the second and in the fourth quadrant. So the overlap between these two sets of information tells me that my angle needs to be in the second quadrant. When we're drawing out our triangle, we're always going to put theta as the angle directly next to the origin. Now, as far as the sine goes, that gives me my opposite side and my hypotenuse. And then I should be able to use the Pythagorean theorem to help me find this missing side. So if I go 3 squared plus x squared equals 7 squared, 3 squared is 9, 7 squared is 49. So I get 9 plus x squared equals 49. I have to subtract the 9 over to the other side, so I'm going to get x squared equals 40. And then I'm going to square root both sides. Now on the left-hand side, the squared and the square root are going to cancel out, so we get just x. On the right-hand side, when we square root things, we should remember that there's a positive and a negative answer. We're going to deal with that in just a second. I can break down this square root of 40 into 2 root 10. Now looking at this, we can't have both a positive and a negative answer. But what we should remember is that this horizontal side going across the bottom really refers to the x value. And because we're in the second quadrant, that x value needs to be negative. So this side going across the bottom of my triangle is actually going to be the negative 2 root 10. So now I can start building all of my other trig ratios. I already had the sine, but I'm going to write that one down. If I find the cosine of my angle theta, cosine is adjacent, so that's going to be the negative 2 root 10 over the hypotenuse of 7. The tangent of theta is the opposite side 3 over the adjacent side of negative 2 root 10. Now I should be able to rationalize that into 3 root 10 over negative 20. And then I can also go through and find my reciprocal functions as well. So the cosecant of theta is the reciprocal of that sine, so it's 7/3. The secant of theta is the reciprocal of the cosine, so it's 7 over negative 2 root 10. But again, we're going to have to rationalize this one, so I'm going to get 7 root 10 over negative 20. And then my cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent, so I'm going to get negative 2 root 10 over 3. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching.